Hello folks, a bit of roach fishing today on the Union Canal. Fishing the bread punch. Been there a couple of hours and I've probably caught 60 or 70 little roach. It's very cold. Probably about 3 or 4 degrees. It was freezing overnight. The lake behind me was actually frozen over. Chosen to fish down below the lock. Joining scudgeon. There we go. Yeah, just fishing down below the lock because it's a bit more sheltered down here. I did want to fish further up, so the fish tend to be a bit bigger. One. Nice little roach. It's not typical of what I'm catching. It's on the big side. A lot of them have been tiny. A few more of them would be more than welcome. I chose to fish down here. I knew I was going to catch down here. You always catch down here. Sometimes up there you just don't catch them. As soon as I hadn't done a video for a while, I ought to actually put a few fish on the bank. I must admit, I've really struggled lately. I had more blanks in the last 6 weeks than probably my previous 4 seasons. Really difficult. I must admit I did fish for carp a fair bit. I had all my carp gear in the car for a month or so and I just kept going because I was lazy. Got 2 rigs set up. It's about 2.5 metre width. It's got 0.6 gram float, 5 number 8s, 4 number 10s I think they are. It's 3-pound line straight through, size 16, relatively fine wire hook on there, Camazan B611. And then I've got a slightly heavier, longer rig as well. That's probably more typical of what I've been catching. Offline is a bit of a state. I'll come straight back. Big sort of fungal growth on his head. I'm using 3-pound line simply so I can so it can take a bit of a beating really. I don't want to snap up and have to tackle up again. And I want to be able to just pluck the fish straight out the water and into my hand. It's also slightly less prone to tangling heavier line, it's a little bit stiffer. Been feeding quite heavy. 2 reasons really. 1, just to keep the fish in the swim. 2, I mean there's always the prospect of feeding the little ones off. Hopefully catching a bigger stamp of fish, but to be honest, there's so many small ones here. That's unlikely. Dripping in a little bit of hemp as well, and I've never fished for roach without feeding hemp. Second net fish of the day. Absolute pristine roach, about 4 ounces. Hopefully as the light fades later on I'll catch a few more of those. The better fish always seem to be more confident later in the day. Yeah, I was saying you can quite often catch 3, 4, 5 pounds of fish in the last hour of play, and they're decent fish. I'm still trying to figure out how to get through to these better fish. Sometimes they want loads of feed, sometimes they don't, I haven't quite figured it out yet. Good idea to search around, throw your feed in, and you've got about a 2 metre in diameter circle around that area to explore. And quite often we'll find the bigger ones will be slightly downstream, slightly further out. And so you might fish that little area, catch 4 or 5 better ones, and then they go away and you're back to catching the tiny ones again. I've tried bigger bread punches. At the moment I'm using 5mm. But I have gone up to a 7, which is much bigger. But can't say using a bigger one's made a big difference. The fish were bigger, simply because the tiny ones can't get it in their mouths, but the catch rate slowed right down. So it's kind of, you've got to judge whether it's worth waiting out for the slightly bigger ones. Today I don't think so, not yet anyway. With bread punch fishing, if you don't have a bite within 30 seconds of your rig going in, your bait's fallen off. Just cuts a little disc of bread out. There's a slot, hook goes in, bread goes on. And gently swing it out. You get quite fluid at it, and then your rig's always laying correctly, there's no tangles. I've been feeding heavily every cast, about a pigeon egg sized bit of bread in there. Since setting up the camera I actually haven't fed, I think. The fish seem to be slightly on the better size. What I'll probably do is I'll fish till I'm getting no bites at all. What I'll do is I'll put in maybe 3 balls and fish that out. What I tend to do when I'm whip fishing like this is I feed about halfway in between the tip of my pole and the float. I don't want to push the fish out of range. This is liquidized bread I've got in here, and then there's some punch crumb as well, which is basically white breadcrumb, which is a bit doughy. It helps you to be able to form it into a ball and for it to sink. I kind of want it to sink about halfway down before breaking up. I want the fish to be down rather than swimming around all over the place up in the water. And then you start getting little bites and crappy little bites that are harder to hit. Well, they seem to be back on the big hunch and catching again, but they were gone for about 45 minutes. Chucked the pipe rod out, but nothing. Very strange. Now, it started off really small again. They're a bit better now, sort of 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces. But that was very weird. I don't know whether some cold water came through or what, but whatever it was, I didn't like it very much. Bit of luck I can keep this catch rate up, and anyway, bugger off again. The reason I like this hook actually is it's got a nice long shank, so it's easy to grip a hold of and unhook the fish quickly. One. Good solid 3 ounce. Catching those every chuck, you'd see how little time it would take to put another pound in the net. It's probably time for a new bit of bread. Oh, the final roach bonanza didn't happen. I was upset by a couple of bream. I don't know if I got either of those on film. Anyway, let's have a look. 7 pounds, 1 ounce. Those big bream. Yeah, must be a 3-pounder. That must be 4. Right, 10 pounds, 2 ounces. 17-pound odd altogether. Nice day. 1 or 2 slightly better roach. But too many of those again, as usual. Right, let's bung them all back in. Alright, I'm going to shoot off home now, it's bloody cold, so I'll see you next time.